Coming up on Cannabis Coast to Coast News with Alaina Pinto this week, President Trump continues to shake up the world, and cannabis is no different, now calling for the death penalty for all drug dealers. And his cuts to federal government threaten over 500 existing research studies. MSO giant Green Thumb Industries CEO Ben Kovler lashes out at the DEA, calling that agency corrupt and asleep at the wheel. And now GTI is getting into the Delta 8 hemp business. On the state front, democracy and cannabis reform take a beating in Ohio this week as lawmakers move to undo what the people voted in just a few months ago. And even in California, lawmakers there are moving to ban all disposable vapes for cannabis and nicotine products, citing lithium battery dangers and environmental impact. And Pennsylvania Senior Senator John Fetterman is starting a petition to federally legalize cannabis that you can sign right now. Plus, a report from the American Dental Association sees an association between cavities and cannabis. Oops, that reminds me, time to go brush my teeth. All that and international cannabis reports on Cannabis Coast to Coast News with Alaina Pinto next.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's Cannabis Coast to Coast News, PCMTV's weekly production of cannabis news here in the United States, Europe, and Canada. I'm Alaina Pinto. Now that we are releasing the show on Mondays at 9 a.m., you can watch the live stream on 7 social media platforms simultaneously, or you can get that live stream right on the PCMTV app available at the App Store and on Google Play. Scan the QR code, and that will take you right there. We start with a confusing environment in our nation's capital where cannabis reform just isn't a priority for the ruling Republican Party. This week was even more bizarre after President Trump's meeting with the Ukraine President Zelensky that ended abruptly after the two had a rather volatile exchange in the Oval Office. One thing's for sure, the two leaders certainly did not talk about cannabis reform. In fact, the only time President Trump mentioned anything having to do with drug reform is when he mentioned that he thinks drug dealers should get the death penalty. He did not specify if he considered cannabis dealers a drug dealer in that sentence. The president also announced that Alice Johnson, a formerly incarcerated woman serving a 20-year sentence on a non-violent cannabis conviction, will become the nation's pardon czar. Her responsibility will be to recommend to the president other current inmates who are still serving sentences for non-violent cannabis crimes. The only positive news coming out of the lobbyists in Washington, D.C. comes from the newly formed U.S. Cannabis Roundtable, whose leaders are clinging to hope that President Trump will make good on his campaign promises after supporting adult use in his home state of Florida. In the meantime, NORML is lashing out at legal states like Ohio, who are trying to change the existing adult use laws by a strong Republican Senate there. And the reforms that were passed this week include removing the Social Equity Jobs Program, cutting back on home grow from 12 plants to 6, and capping THC percentage and creating a mandatory 3-day jail sentence for anyone caught riding in a vehicle while consuming cannabis. Big note on that, though, it's just if you are riding in a vehicle, not driving it. There are a few other items in this bill that now goes to the House of Representatives in Ohio. And you know, our Ohio correspondent, Christina Brisson, will have something to say about this in her weekly report, sponsored by Yellow Labs Tincture, now in 40 dispensaries in that state.
Around Columbus, Sophia is a beacon of sensuality who embraces her sensuality and desires. Seeking to enhance intimacy, she tries Yellow Labs TDHC Libido Mist. The mist ignites passion, awakening desires, and fostering authentic connections. Empowered by its effects, she embarks on a journey of exploration and intimacy. THC Libido Mist serves as a catalyst, kindling desire and intimacy.
Hi, I'm Christina Brisson with Over the Top Renovations with your weekly Ohio Cannabis Report with Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I'm going to start off with a piece of positive news before I go on my next rant. They're opening a new dispensary in Niles, Ohio, which is going to be recreational as well as medical, so congratulations for that. But let's move on to the rest of the story that's taking over all the news in Ohio this week. And let's be honest, all of us voters are pretty pissed. SB 56 passed through the Senate, which changes everything about our laws with THC and cannabis and how it's going to be handled, the taxation, where the money goes, what the percentages are, what we're allowed to grow, and more. There's a lot of changes that no one wanted in this. And Ohio took the time to vote cannabis in when we were ready for the right measures. We had opportunities before and we did not like how it was laid out. And now we finally have things the way we wanted, and they're saying, no, we're going to change every last bit of it. So it has to go through the House and it's got to go through the governor, but we all know Governor Mike DeWine supports this bill. Let's hope this dies in the House. Everybody speak up, reach out. This is not okay. This is a complete screw you to us voters, and it needs to change, and something needs to happen. That is your weekly Ohio Cannabis Report, and I am Christina Brisson with Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
The Ohio Cannabis Report is supported by Yellow Labs and BetterWaysToTHC.com. Search for Yellow Labs near me and find one of 40 dispensaries in Ohio carrying these amazing mists and creams. We're so lucky to have Tim Johnson from Ohio joining us here at the Cannabis Coast to Coast production studio. And I can ask him, what happened in Ohio this week? You were in the room when the Republicans voted all this weird stuff into a new bill. They've undone everything that Ohio gained. What is your reaction to what happened there, Tim?
For Ohioans, it was nothing unexpected. We knew it was coming. As we've been following issue 2 since it's passed, and we've watched what happened, and we've been receiving somewhat, I guess, legislative respect and following the timeline. But last week on the Senate floor, in addressing Senate Bill 56, what we seen was Ohio Senate Bill 56. It presented a new era of cannabis prohibition in Ohio, is the simplest way to put, or to reply to the bill's language.
Are you confident that the House is going to come up with a counter bill or just block this one?
No, they're going to come up. I really believe they'll come up with a counter bill. One of their own. They don't want to take something that's so pejorative in the minds of Ohioans, and say, okay, well, we're just going to make a couple adjustments on Senate Bill 56 and it'll pass the Senate Bill 56. I don't think it's going to happen. We've got too many calls to actions right now, too many people calling for their resignation, advising them, elections are around the corner. It's just gotten to a point that's ridiculous to, speak of the voters that put you in office, to basically call us stupid and call us dumb. We don't know what we're doing, and so forth. So no, I truly believe with the contacts I have and my intel that the House will come up with something much better, and they'll get rid of a lot of the criminal enhancement of criminal penalties and laws that they're adding into. Much of them date back to worse than the current illicit drug laws in Ohio.
Well, Tim Johnson, as always, thank you so much. We now go back to Alaina Pinto in the studio.
Don't look now, but the legal regulated cannabis industry is moving towards the more unregulated hemp industry and getting into infused beverages and other hemp-based products because it's a lot easier to operate in that market. It's kind of like if you can't beat them, join them. Well, that's what's going on with one of the larger multi-state operators in the U.S., Green Thumb Industries out of Illinois. This week, their CEO, Ben Culver, ripped the DEA for their delaying practices and called them clueless and asleep at the wheel. In their fourth quarter earnings call with investors, Kovler painted a very bleak picture on future federal reform of cannabis, including the fact that he doesn't see legalization happening for at least a decade. Kovler's quote during that call was, "We think the DEA is corrupt and misguided and out to lunch," unquote. GTI has a strong reputation in the industry as one of the few publicly traded MSOs that has a solid financial model. Their preemptive move into the hemp-derived industry is another sign that GTI is ready to adapt to the new, more prohibitionist administration in Washington, D.C. Our Illinois reporter, Mark Allen, is already preparing for this move in his own backyard. Here's the Chicago Clone Guys report for the week.
What's up, everybody? This is Mark Allen, the Chicago clone guy, checking in from Illinois for Cannabis Coast to Coast News, and this is Bird in his spot like always. Thanks for tuning in. As you all know, as we all know watching this show, that the MSOs, or for the people that don't wear suits every day, multi-state organization, MSO, the big companies is what I like to call them, they've pretty much, they dominate the cannabis industry, and especially they're starting to take over the hemp industry for the intoxicated hemp. Well, not for long. Small guys are starting to do it too. This guy. I currently have, as you're going to see a video coming up here, I have agriculturally zoned land, which is required for a hemp permit in Illinois now. They changed the tax code, so they're making the barriers to entry more difficult. But I knew that, so I anticipated that. I bought the property, and now, as you see in this video, I have a commercial facility being built on a multi-acreage field for our commercial hemp, clone producing facility. And we're also going to be doing outdoor intoxicated hemp, working possibly, with the MSOs or the small people. So it's not always the big guys out there. There's the small guys like me in the clone camper that are fighting for it every day too. But, I wish everybody luck in this business. So that's pretty cool seeing going on there. Illinois, some more news in Illinois. An Illinois committee advances a bill to eliminate the search of a vehicle alone by the smell or odor of burnt or raw cannabis. That's pretty good information. I like hearing that going through. The East Dundee Police Department are having some bad news because they recently raided a hemp shop and they had to give it all back, including the money that they took. And now the owner of that hemp shop is suing them for an illegal raid. Imagine that. They're alleging that it was based on race, and they also allege that the East Dundee Police Department knew that other local shops were doing the same thing they were doing in the same area, but left them alone because they were not the same race. But those are alleged statements. But that sums up this week's Cannabis Coast to Coast News. I'm Mark Allen, the Chicago clone guy. Checking out. Thanks for tuning in.
California continues to drive more revenue in cannabis sales than any other state, yet the industry is struggling because of overregulation and another elected body that continues to make it as difficult as possible to survive in the industry. And now, a state assemblywoman is introducing a bill that would effectively ban all vaping tools for cannabis and nicotine. Assemblymember Jackie Irwin has introduced a bill that would ban single-use cannabis and nicotine vapes statewide. The reason has to do with public safety, claiming the lithium batteries in those devices are prone to spontaneous combustion. On top of that, she cites the impact of these devices on the environment. On top of that movement is the decline in tax revenue and the desire of the California state government to increase already existing taxes up to 25%. Industry lobbyists believe that if this happens, even more cannabis businesses will fail and consumers will return to the illicit market. California joins other legal adult use states who want to inflict and increase taxes to make up for budget shortfalls. Our California reporter managed to find a safe haven for cannabis enthusiasts. It was a Cannabis Chamber of Commerce event in West Hollywood at Pleasure Med. Here's Dina Nagib.
Hi, I'm Dina Nagib, Principal Consultant of Grass Goddess Consulting, reporting for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Special report today. I'm here with Ian Rassman of Rassman Payments. How's it going, Ian?
It's great. It's awesome to be here today. Here we are hanging out in a lounge, Cannabis Lounge in West Hollywood.
Yeah, we're at Pleasure Med today. Do you want to tell everyone what we're doing here?
We're here with the LA County Bar Association and Cannabis Chamber of Commerce to come together and discuss the plant. Here at Pleasure Med in West Hollywood, a cannabis consumption lounge. And we've had a lot of amazing products here today. Really some fantastic stuff.
It's an amazing group of people. Like, there are a lot of attorneys here, but a lot of other people. It's really been great. And West Hollywood has really been leading the way when it comes to consumption lounges for cannabis. So I think that it's great that we were able to come here together today and talk about the future.
Absolutely. West Hollywood is definitely leading cannabis tourism. It's sort of the new Amsterdam, with people coming internationally to LA, knowing that they can go to lounges and purchase cannabis and consume it, all in a safe environment. This is amazing.
I love that. Yeah, it's definitely a great place, and tourists already come here. So
We need to see the expansion of this model and others outside of West Hollywood, more pervasive around California and other parts of the country and around the world, of course.
absolutely, and that's a great lead-in because Ian, I wanted to ask you. You have some big travel coming up. Do you want to just talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, I'm heading off to Europe on Wednesday. I'm visiting a cultivation facility in Holland on Thursday. I'm speaking at the Cannabis Summit on Friday. Saturday and Sunday, I'm grabbing all the executives from the summit, and I'm leading a 2-day industry tour around
cool.
Amsterdam. We've got some VIP tours lined up at many of the famous coffee shops. The owners are going to meet us and give us the private tour. So we're going to get the VIP experience. We've got the Bulldog canal boat, so we're going to go cruising down the canals, and it's all a walking tour. And then it's Cannabis Week in Barcelona, so I'm leaving on Tuesday for Barcelona, where there's going to be sea days, events every night in lounges all around the city. Thursday is the International Cannabis Business Conference, another event I'm sponsoring. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday is Spannabis, the Europe's largest cannabis festival with 15,000 plus people pouring into Barcelona to celebrate the plant.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And we actually have one of our correspondents that lives over in Europe that will be at Spannabis. So it'd be cool if you guys meet up and do another interview there. Well, thank you so much, Ian, for taking a little time with me today. I appreciate everything you do for the industry.
It's always great hanging out with you, Dina.
Thanks so much. This is Dina for Cannabis Coast to Coast News.
One more note on California. If you want to get your voice heard about the proposed tax hike, think about attending a lobby day on March 24th in the state's capital, Sacramento. That tax hike threatens the existence of the market that is teetering on collapse. So think about these unfair facts. Cannabis in California, the consumers there pay 124 times more than the tax on wine and 60 times more than beer. Seems a bit unfair, right? Well, that'll do it for the A Block, or first section of Cannabis Coast to Coast News. Next up, we'll turn it over to our international reports, Debbie Facey in Canada and Ben Stevens in London with a report on the ever-changing laws in Germany. Cannabis Coast to Coast News continues after this.
Ready to take your craft to the next level? Imagine faster extractions, purer products, and more profits. Sounds good, right? At Pure 5 Extraction, we've revolutionized cannabis extraction with our game-changing technology. No solvents, no heat, just the cleanest, most natural process on the market. Whether you're a boutique grower or a large-scale operation, Pure 5 has the tools to elevate your business worldwide. Visit pure5extraction.com today. Pure 5 Extraction, because your plants deserve the best.